Раз, раз, раз. Раз, раз. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Можна попросити журналістів діалогу?
Раз, 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 раз. Раз, раз, раз. Chicken, chicken.
Так, де його ставити? Зараз чи або після доставити? Після кого його ставити? Замовляла?
Ні, він не супер.
Після нас. Саме, як це читається? Саме це пише постійно. Саме баба. Dear colleagues, good morning. Thanks for your patience. We'll start in 4 to 5 minutes. Thank you. How are you? Так, чути?
Very closely. Very happy. So sometimes I work here as Where are you based? Okay. Yes. I'm from Pacific Northwest National Park. Pacific is because they had in the state of Washington, but probably me, I this part. Yes. In theory. Yeah.
Find out why you didn't find it. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this important side event at the 29th Conference of Parties here in Baku at Ukraine's Pavilion. My name is Victoria Yashkina. I'm here from UNDP as a regional climate change specialist for Europe and Central Asia, And it's in order to moderate today's event dedicated to climate resilience and low carbon development of Ukraine. Despite the immense challenge posed by the war, which reaches the 1,000 days tomorrow of the full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine, Ukraine has demonstrated remarkable determination in aligning its recovery with global climate goals. Today, we're here to discuss how Ukraine updated long-term low-emission development strategy, or LEDS, serve as a cornerstone for a sustainable, green, and sustainable future. Let's begin with our first session, where we will explore Ukraine's climate efforts in the broader regional and international context. It's my pleasure to invite and introduce our esteemed speakers, Ms. Victoria Kireyeva, Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine, Mr. Sergiu Lazarescu, Minister of Environment of the Republic of Moldova, mind the gap, Mr. Nuri Ozbagdatli, Regional Climate Change for Europe and Central Asia, UNDP, and Mr. Pablo Vieira Samper, Global Director at the NDC Partnership. And I'm delighted to invite our first speaker, Ms. Victoria Kireyeva, Deputy Minister of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine, to address her welcoming remarks. Ms. Kireyeva, the floor is yours.
Вітаю всіх, вітаю в нашому українському павільйоні, вітаю з початком нового тижня на КОПі.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning in our Ukrainian pavilion, and good morning, good afternoon, with a new week at COP.
В першу чергу хочу сказати, що для України, для нашого міністерства сьогодні дуже важливий захід.
First of all, I would like to say that this event is very important for the ministry.
Тому що низьковуглецева стратегія України до 2050 року дасть змогу відбудувати Україну зеленою, енергетично безпечною та кліматично нейтральною.
Because a low carbon strategy until 2050 will enable to develop Ukraine in a climate-friendly way.
В жовтні цього року Верховна Рада України прийняла дуже важливий закон, саме закон про основи кліматичної політики.
In October of this year, the Parliament of Ukraine ratified a new law, very important law on climate policies.
Відповідно до цього закону ми взяли на себе зобов'язання досягнути кліматичної нейтральності в 2050 році.
According to this law, we decided and we accepted the strategy to achieve climate neutrality until 2050.
Але зобов'язання нам не дадуть змогу досягти. Нам потрібний чіткий план дій, нам потрібно розуміти, як ми повинні розвиватися, які сценарії ми оберемо.
And it's critical to have a clear strategy and clear scenario how to achieve that goal.
І саме низьковуглецева стратегія дасть відповідь на наші всі питання.
And exactly the low emission development strategy will give us the answer for those questions.
Сьогодні ми вперше будемо про неї говорити публічно, ми будемо представляти перші результати.
Today, this is the very first time we will be publicly speaking about our long-term low emission development strategy.
Тільки перший крок, тому що далі буде ще дуже велика робота.
This is only the first step. We have lots of work ahead.
Нам потрібно обговорити її з нашими науковцями, з нашою громадськістю, з нашим бізнесом.
We'll have to talk and discuss with our scientists, our public sector, our business.
Тому сьогодні дуже важливий день. Я вдячна всім, що ви прийшли до нас. Я думаю, що сьогодні буде дуже цікава дискусія. Я закликаю всіх задавати питання. Ми хочемо почути від вас зворотню відповідь.
As such, today is a very important day, and I encourage you to ask questions, engage in discussion, and thank you very much for coming this morning. Because for the next COP, we will have to arrive with already ratified right on time.
Thank you, Ms. Kireva, for that inspiring overview of Ukraine's commitment to climate action, despite the immense war actions on the territory of Ukraine. And our next speaker is Mr. Sergiu Lazarenko, the Minister of Environment of Moldova. Mr. Lazarenko, please go ahead.
Good morning, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I extend my sincere gratitude for inviting me to participate in this important event and share Moldova's approach to low-carbon development and climate resilience. It is both an honor and a privilege to speak before you today on a matter that it's a paramount important not only to our individual nation, but to our entire region climate resilience and energy security in a world that grows increasingly volatile and unpredictable. Today, I want to reflect on how Moldova, alongside its neighbors, particularly Ukraine, can rise to meet these challenges with strength, solidarity, and shared vision. Moldova stands at a critical crossroads, both geographically and geopolitically. Located in Eastern Europe, bordered by Ukraine to the north and the east, Romania to the west, and the Black Sea to the south, Moldova finds itself at the intersection of a changing climate involving energy needs and shifting geopolitical realities. In these turbulent times, we recognize that climate resilience and energy security are not just national concerns, they are regional imperatives. And as we face these challenges, the path forward lies in cooperation. Moldova has long stood in solidarity with Ukrainian neighbors, and we continue to do, especially to Ukraine rebels, with devastating effects of war, environmental degradation, and the urgent need for energy security. This solidarity has never been more vital as our two countries, along with our regional partners, confront the profound consequences of shifting climate and energy crisis. Ukraine, with its vast agricultural resources and strategic position in Eastern Europe, faces challenges that are both complex and interconnected. From the destruction of critical infrastructure, including energy grids, to the displacement of community and degradation of the ecosystem, Ukraine's path to recovery and resilience will require support and collaboration from all of us. Moldova stands firmly with Ukraine as we both confront the climate crisis head-on at work toward achieving sustainable, secure energy system that will protect our citizens and of our way of life. Moldova's commitment to this cause is unwavering, despite facing its own challenges such as reliance of energy imports, of vulnerability to climate-induced extreme weather events. We are determined to build a future that is not just resilient, but also green and sustainable. By expanding of our renewable energy sector, diversifying our energy sources, and focusing on energy efficiency, Moldova aims to reduce its dependence of external sources of energy and contribute to regional energy security. We are working towards creating a model that can be replicated across Eastern Europe, one where energy security and climate resilience go hand in hand. However, we cannot achieve these goals alone, but also with help of international partners as GEF, GCF, Adoption Fund, ERBRD, regional cooperation, particularly between Moldova and Ukraine, is essential. Our shared border, common environmental challenges, and mutual interest in ensuring a sustainable future for our peoples bind us together. We must continue to collaborate on energy infrastructure projects, including the development of cross-border energy grids and the expansion of renewable energy capacity. By working together to diversify energy sources, share best practices, and integrate our economy, we can mitigate the risk posed by both geopolitical instability and climate change. Moldova is also committed to being a proactive player in the global climate conversation. While we may be a small country, we understand that the fight against climate change requires the collective will of all nations, big and small. Moldova's voice in international forums such as the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement is one of the advocates for equity, solidarity, and urgent action. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Mr. Lazarescu, for these warm words of solidarity and support to Ukraine and for highlighting the value of regional collaboration and partnership. I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Nuri Özbagdatli, climate change specialist for Europe and Central Asia from United Nations Development Program. Nuri, please go ahead.
Thank you, ministers. Thanks a lot for inviting us. And climate change is a strategic warrior for making the sustainable development possible. And actually what we learn with the Ukraine's experience in terms of solidarity and resilience, while, dealing with all the hassles and the war in the region, in their country, still continue on investing for climate, investing for sustainable development. And it's a very remarkable thing that we learned from also Ukraine about that. Thank you very much for your all support and continuous efforts on that. And long-term strategies is not only a strategy, it is a hope for future. And in this situation like that, you create a hope for climate strategies, climate action that will provide the sustainability for the future generation. And UNDP is very proud to work with Ukraine in partnership with NDC partnership, like we are, brothers in arms. And with the support of the EU and Germany and Switzerland, where we also provide support for the Article 6 preparation and also work in Ukraine for the CO2 registry to understand what is the damage of the war for the climate change. And UNDP, as you know, asked from the Secretary General to team up with all UN systems for Climate Promise 2025 in April. And since April, we work with all countries and to understand how UN agencies come together and provide a map, a working plan with the government in Ukraine. And with that UN work plan, we hope to continue process with NDC 3.0 preparation in line with the long-term strategies and also in partnership with NDC partnership. And UNDP is very proud that we already provided support more than 70 countries for LEDS process. And so far we have more than 90 countries for the NDC 3.0 preparation process. And we believe that our partnership with NDC partnership and other UN agencies will provide relevant, effective, and efficient support to Ukraine government. And I really, again, would like to thank you humbly for all your resistance, solidarity, for keeping climate action strategies in these darkest times for future generation and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nuri. And I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Pablo Vieira Semper from NDC Regional, the Global Director of the NDC Partnership, also to share his remarks to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. It's a true honor to be here, ministers. Thank you for having us. I think that organizing this event is critical, because I think that this is a unique conversation that needs to happen in the silence of the negotiations. This is a terrible situation with a terrible conflict, but it's also not the only one around the world. And many countries can learn from Ukraine, as Nurettin was saying, in terms of bringing climate as a critical element of driving the recovery from a war. So thank you for that. And today is a pivotal moment, because the updating of the long-term low emission development strategy is a clear signal of the commitment of the Ukrainian government for sustainable development and a low carbon future. By aligning climate with the post-war recovery, Ukraine is setting a commendable example of integrating their national priorities with the climate objectives. The partnership, working very closely with UNDP, is honored to be supporting the government, and amongst other things, supporting this effort of the updating of the LEDS that takes into consideration the ongoing war and ways of harmonizing the country's long-term vision with relevant sectoral strategies to accelerate NDC implementation and drive a sustainable development. The NDC partnership is a global coalition, and we bring together more than 230 partners. We support actively 100 countries, and we're very, very proud to, amongst them, support Ukraine. And through our model, we assist countries aligning their mid and long-term targets on climate action so that they can develop actionable policies and projects and mobilize the resources and the finance to implement their NDCs and the long-term strategies and align the two efforts. We do this by mobilizing a tailored package of support based on the requests that we receive from the countries in terms of their needs. We mobilize technical expertise, financial assistance, strategic partnerships from our broad membership, and we put it together in one package of support based on country needs. The partnership plays a crucial role in matching countries with the resources that they need to achieve their climate ambition. And for Ukraine, this includes building the systems and capacity that are required to integrate climate goals into national recovery plans. I can share a few examples of the opportunities for collaborations that we have ahead of us, because I think that there's tools within the partnership and resources from our membership that are critical. And of course, one of them is the Climate Promise, with the new mandate from the Secretary General to bring together the efforts of the whole UN. And we work very closely with that and bring resources from other stakeholders to contribute to that effort. Under our Economic Advisory Initiative, we embed experts in ministries of finance, ministries of planning, and we're doing this in more than 30 countries to help countries advance climate-compatible growth and mobilize financing for transformative projects. Similar support can be adapted to Ukraine, where we can deploy embedded advisors that will allow the country to advance a green recovery effort that is compatible with its long-term strategy and with the new NDC. We also have a readiness support for greening central banks that is designed to support the regulatory frameworks that will bring the financial system and align it with the green recovery plans of the country, to enhance climate risk frameworks and regulations, to strengthen coordination amongst the key financial actors within the government, and support the economic recovery through strong climate action. Finally, we host the Center for Access for Climate Finance, and we can use the lessons learned from the different countries that are being supported through this effort to simplify and support access to climate finance, which is such a critical element. So we can leverage those lessons learned from the pioneer countries and help Ukraine through innovative financial mechanisms to advance its low carbon development projects. A key pillar of our approach is ensuring that climate objectives are integrated into national planning and investment frameworks. By anchoring the long-term strategy and the NDCs into sectoral strategies and aligning them with national development goals, Ukraine can create a whole of government and whole of society vision that fosters coherence across policy and accelerates action. So lessons from countries around the world, including Indonesia and Ethiopia, for example, demonstrate that integrating climate into the development strategies, connecting them to the long-term strategies and to the NDCs is critical to mobilize the necessary finance. Let me close by saying that Ukraine's commitment to climate action even amid adversity today, is a testament to the resilience and vision of a sustainable future for our government. With the long-term strategy and upcoming NDC 3.0, Ukraine is uniquely positioned to set an example on how to integrate climate, development, and economic growth with post-war development recovery efforts. We stand ready as the NDC partnership with our 230 members to mobilize the full strength of our membership to support this effort by Ukraine. Please, Prime Minister, count on us. We can mobilize technical expertise, innovative financial solutions, collaborative partnerships that can bridge the ambition and implementation of the NDCs and the long-term strategies so that we can support that the efforts contribute to a meaningful contribution to the global efforts, but also that drive sustainable development in Ukraine in this very difficult moment. So we believe that by acting together, we achieve more. So count on the partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Samper, for this encouraging words, stressing in partnership, and also thanks for reminding that all the strategies needs to be aligned together, especially when countries starting or already working on the next cycle of NDCs. And I want us to join online our next speaker, Roman Shakhmatenko, Environmental Portfolio Team Leader from UNDP in Ukraine. Roman, are you with us?
Yes, colleague. Great
Morning from Baku.
Good morning from Kiev. Very grateful for having me today. It was very difficult to talk after highly esteemed partners and stakeholders and colleagues, and to add anything. A lot has been said. I just want to reiterate and to acknowledge the resilience of Ukrainian people that are standing strong for the last 1,000 days almost of full-scale invasion, and to reiterate the partnership with UNDP, and that UNDP will be supporting Ukraine further on, especially when it comes to long-term, mid-term planning on the recovery issues. We do believe that the efforts of the government and its actions that are concentrated on the planning of the recovery, on the actual activities of the recovery, are crucial to countries' future. Now, the LEDS development and LEDS approval is pivotal here. Why? Because it clearly gives us a direction for future development and of the term and understanding of what the green recovery actually is. How should we move there? And where should we find ourselves in 2050? This is crucial for us because we have been supporting UNDP, the system of UNDP, and the C partnership and other stakeholders are the partners, have been supporting government before and will be supporting again. But not only this kind of activities show us what kind of areas should we look into, such as renewables, for example, such as understanding in what pace should we be moving. And as we can see from the work that has been already done on the modeling, on the forecasting, we do understand that Ukraine has a long way to go. However, we do understand that Ukraine has a huge potential. We do understand that Ukraine has a bright future. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, dear speakers. And we have still time for a Q&A session. So please questions to our speakers from the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine, Mrs. Victoria Kireyeva, to Mr. Sergiu Lazarenko from Ministry of Environment of Moldova, to Nuri and to Roman representing UNDP here, or to Pablo Vieira Samper representing NDC partnership here. Please raise your hand, so we will, and I will pass the mic to you. If no question, I will then close this first part of this flagship event of Ukraine's Pavilion. One more applause to our esteemed speakers. And I would like to open the next part of this side event.
So after the session, when if you have time to watch the presentation, we do a family photo.
So I would like to ask to join the panel, Mr. Dr. Nazar Holot, Ukraine Country Coordinator for the Net Zero World Initiative, and Mr. Alexander Yachuk, Leading Research Officer at the Institute for Economic and Forecasting of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine. So first, please, Nazar, I'm asking you to speak about the contribution of the Net Zero Initiative to the long-term low-emission development strategy. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. Great to be here. It's an honor to participate in this high-level event. I'm Nazar Holt. I'm the National Country Coordinator for the Net Zero World Ukraine Initiative. Net Zero World is a flagship initiative of the U.S. Department of Energy. We are working with several countries. Ukraine joined this initiative at COP26. We presented our first results at the previous COP, COP28. We modeled the first vision of Ukraine to how Ukraine can decarbonize its economy. And we are working across many work streams. We are focusing on energy system-wide modeling. We are working on distributed energy resources in Ukraine, which is the highest priority for our initiative based on the need of Ukraine. We are focusing also on industrial decarbonization, working with the Green Transition Office of the Ministry of Economy, developing a roadmap to decarbonize Ukrainian steel industry with small modular reactors. It is an initiative that was announced by at the US Center just last Friday. With the Green Transition Office, we are also developing a roadmap to rebuild and decarbonize Ukrainian cement industry, working with both ministries, environment and energy, to reduce methane emissions. But our key activity, or our first activity that we started, is system-wide modeling. We are proud working with the Institute for Economics and Forecasting. We started working with them even before the war, developed the strategy to decarbonize Ukrainian buildings on the building retrofit strategy. Net Zero World Initiative supported the development of the National Energy and Climate Plan, and now we are proud to join the large team of experts to develop low-emission development strategy. The Institute for Economics and Forecasting is our partner that we have been working with them for many years. We are proud that the Net Zero World is a consortium of national laboratories of the U.S. Department of Energy. I am from Pacific Northwest National Lab, but we also work with Argonne National Lab, Idaho National Lab, National Renewable Energy Lab, Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So there's 6 national labs, enormous potential that the Department of Energy has to support the Ukrainian reconstruction and decarbonization. We were focusing not only on providing support in terms of writing reports for Ukraine. We are building capacity, and I think we are co-creating our documents. So with that, we are proud that we had opportunities to bring the team from the Institute for Economics and Forecasting to the Argonne National Laboratory to approve and enhance the Ukrainian Times Ukraine model, right, that we use for the development of all those strategic documents. Times Ukraine is already one of the most advanced system-wide models in the world, and we are proud that now we even can further develop this capacity. PNNL, or Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, also developing the global change analysis model for Ukraine. GCAM. GCAM is one of the integrated assessment models that was used in all IPCC reports. Probably the only one open source model available in the United States, and we are working very hard to develop this model for Ukraine. So Times Ukraine model is energy model, but GCAM combines together energy, water, land, economy, and climate in a one integrated assessment framework. So next year we will have this model fully developed for Ukraine, and I hope that for the next COP we will be presenting not only the fully adopted and developed LEDS, but also fully developed, vetted, and open source GCAM Ukraine model. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holod. And now, the magic begins. The first ever discussion and presentation of the first results of the update of the long-term low-emission development strategy for Ukraine. Alexander, please go ahead.
Yeah, I need to start.
Okay.
Thank you. I also want to start from Sense. So thank you for coming to us. Thank you for your time. And also especially thanks for previous speakers for saving time, because I have a long presentation. So yeah, let's start. So now today, and thanks of course Ministry of Environment to inviting us to support developing of low emission development strategy and UNDP and NDC partnership for support and net zero world initiative. So today I want to share with you our preliminary results of modeling of GHG emission pathway to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. So as Nazar said, we last COP in Dubai, we presented just only, let's say, research paper about this, but today we are working on the government level, and we are very happy. Yes, next slide, please. Legal framework is absolutely understandable for all of you, but just want to mention that, of course, it's a Paris Agreement, and all parties should develop and revise long-term strategy every 5 years. We also take into account our EU accession process. We take into account two regulations of European Union. First about governance of energy union climate action, and regarding the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which also required to for countries to develop low emission development strategies with goal of climate neutrality 2050. And of course, as Victoria, Deputy Minister, said today, we have a very good law, climate law, which adopted a month ago with concrete targets and Ukraine facility plan. Next slide. For preparation of low emission development strategy, we, as I said, we supported by UNDP and Net Zero World Initiative. And based on this, we collected, invited to develop a lot of international and international experts, the best experts in different areas. You can see that it's not only in energy and climate, but also in just transition, macroeconomic, climate finance, etc. And we are working and will working more with our national stakeholders, like different ministries, agencies, businesses, NGOs, etc., and academia. But also we want to discuss it with our European Union partners, European Commission, and international partners, UNFCCC Secretariat, UNICEF, UNDP, etc., and others. Next slide. It's a process. It's very short time for preparation of the draft low emission development strategy. We just started in August officially, but before we also worked internally with our experts. And now we are presenting our first results, and in December we will send draft presentation to ministry, and hope next year we will have a lot of stakeholder consultation and discussion, and LEDS will adopt it till the mid of next year. Next slide. So, according to the regulation which I mentioned before, we of European Union, regulation of European Union, the integrated national energy and climate plans shall be consistent with long-term strategy. So, because we also participated in preparation of first national energy climate plan of Ukraine, and also supported by Net Zero World Initiative and other donors. So because we are using two scenarios from NECP of Ukraine. First scenario is with existing measures, like business as usual or baseline scenario. And second scenario is with additional measures. So based on these scenarios, of course, we updated this scenario because, as you know, in Ukraine, we have a lot of changes during the war. Based on these two scenarios, we developed third scenarios because previous two not achieve net zero by 2050. So, yeah, so because we developed special or for low emission development scenario, strategy scenario, it's a net zero emission scenario. Okay, 1 second. Yeah. For modeling, we developed framework, modeling framework, which consists different models and tools. Just want to show you. 1 second, please. Next, yes, this one. Yes, as Nazar says, Times Ukraine model covered two APCC sectors, big sectors, emitters. It's energy and industrial products and product use. For waste sector, we have another model, and for agriculture and LUCF, some tools which help us to develop the scenario which I presented before. This scenario is fully synchronized, but we also want to know what the economic impact will be when we will implement our, let's say, energy and climate scenarios. So because we are using Ukraine General Equilibrium Model, it's very popular in Ukraine, and again, in general, these models are using in the world. And on the beginning of developing low emission development, as well as developing national energy and climate plan, we agreed that process of preparation will be transparency. So because we are using web online platform, Meta online, for presenting our results, and various stakeholders can share, or academia or another, stakeholders can check our results and provide some feedbacks. So we again, this process is fully transparent. Next slide. So it was like background, what we have now. As I said before, of course, baseline or scenario with existing policy and measures, it's not a way for achieving net zero emission. And of course, emission will be increased, take into account the rapid of post-war recovery, etc. For with additional measures, if we will fully implement National Energy and Climate Plan, so we see the significant emission reduction in energy and energy sector, and in sector of industrial product process and product use, and in waste sector. and take into account our first results till 2050. Total emission in 2050 will be around 10% of 1990 level. So, but in net zero emission, climate neutrality scenario, we see that target will be achieved, so net zero in 2050. And of course, all sectors should attract a lot of investments and should be implemented a lot of policy and measures, but it's possible. Let's see more what we have for. Next slide, please. And for achieving these targets, one of key policies it's renewable energy. So, of course, it's not only about power sector, but it's very important, but also consumption of renewables for heat production, consumption renewables in transport, and in general in final energy consumption. We have an obligation under Energy Community Secretariat, and it's indicated in National Energy and Climate Plan that 2030 Ukraine will achieve, like the same for Moldova, will achieve 27% of renewables in gross final energy consumption. And we see, based on our result for net zero scenario, the share will increase and can achieve 80% till 2050. Next slide. Another important point or policy, it's of course energy efficiency. So currently we have a lot of results in policy regarding the energy efficiency. It's restricted energy efficiency targets. We have a new financial instrument like Fund of Decarbonization, which also discussed last week in this pavilion. Some simplified procedure for cogeneration, mandatory appliance efficiency standards, etc. But we need to expand energy efficiency policies. So, and key drivers will be expand of energy audits and energy management system. First of all, applying for industry, support for CMS, synergies with resource efficiency, scaling efficiency cogeneration, demand response, smart grids, etc. Of course, and national policy regarding the climate neutrality should be implemented on the local levels, and we should improve the local planning. It's also important. Next slide. Regarding the general energy system, let's say energy balance of Ukraine, we see that, of course, as I said before, key role will be renewable energy, but also nuclear energy, as announced also last week, that will play crucial role on achieving for decarbonizing or electricity production, and of course, for consuming clean electricity. So we see that bioenergy will increase significantly in Ukraine, and we have a potential. But first of all, it's not a burden of solid bioenergy like woods or something. It's first of all, it's a biogases and biomethane. And second share for this will be renewables like wind and solar, and nuclear. As you can see, the comparing to total prime energy supply with baseline scenario or with additional measures scenario, we see that in 2050 is features more or less the same. But because for net zero net zero emissions scenario, we also included policy for exporting green energy, first of all to Europe, to European Commission, European Union. And so because we will need more green electricity for production synthetic fuels, hydrogen and biomethane, and you can see the purple as net export of Ukraine. Coal in total primary supply will phase out till 2050, but in power generation, it will be till 2035. And natural gas also will phase out till 2050, constitute to bioenergy gases. Next slide. For the industry, as I said, it's first of all very important. It's energy efficiency and switching to new fuels, green fuels like biomethane, hydrogen, and electrification of industry. Next slide. For the transport building sector, it's also first of all energy efficiency in terms of accelerated building retrofits. So more cheaper to decrease energy consumption by energy efficiency measures than construct new capacity for production energy for building sector. And we see also that building sector will electrify more in the future, and bioenergy will play also good role in covering demand by building sector. And emissions for building sector can achieve near zero till 2045 before the general goal of till 2050. Next slide. Transport sector. Yeah, here is for transport sector we see two key ways. It's electrified electricity consumption and biogases for freight, or also can be for private cars, but first of all for freight and rail. For agriculture sector, we see there's next slide, please. For agriculture sector, you can see the very small difference between scenarios. So because first of all, because baseline scenario, it also consists a lot of existing measures which implement in Ukraine. But for the second second point, it's we will work on them, and after our session will be a session about agriculture sector. So we hope to collaborate with teams who worked on agriculture sector and improve our results. But key policies is of course promotion of organic crop production in Ukraine, promotion of use of IT system, and bypass food products. So based on results of our expert who worked on this, we see these three key policies and measures for agriculture sector. In LULUCF sector is a lot of uncertainty now related with the war, first of all, right? So we lost a lot of forestry, and but again we see, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. But we see that prospective areas for low emission development is afforestation of lands, temporary or permanently not suitable for agriculture, and climate smart forestry. So for next slide, for cropland, perspective areas is increase of efficiency of nitrogen management and conversion of organic solid to other land use. And of course, for agriculture sector, it's also interesting using green fertilizers. And first pilot projects of producing green fertilizers in Ukraine is starting. So we hope it will have a significant impact on the decarbonization of these two sectors. Next slide. For waste sector, we have a lot of different policy and measures which should be implemented. But first of all, it's relating with methane capture with management of landfills, waste sorting, absorption of biological treatment, and mechanical biological and producing different energy and fuels like solid recovered fuels, SRF, and RDF, for example, which can be used for cement industry. And based on our results, modeling results, emission in wind sector will not achieve zero till 2050, but will reduce by 6 times less comparing to existing level. Next slide, please. In low emission development strategy, we'll present it not only measures, policy and measures for reduction of GHG emissions, but also policy and measures for adaptation to climate change. So, and we have some results now. Currently we have some legislation and strategy like National Climate Strategy till 2035, also adopted this year in spring, law of climate law, which mentioned today. Environment security and climate adaptation strategy, and some methodological guidelines for vulnerability and risk assessment of socioeconomic sectors and natural components for climate change. And of course, for adaptation policy, we should pay more attention, but it's not, it's much less easy to comparing to mitigation, because we now we don't have some targets for adaptation. We should establish it and worked with, first of all, with local authorities regarding the development on local and national policy and measures. Next slide. Based on our modeling results, if we will implement our scenarios, for example, net zero emission scenarios with a target of achieving climate neutrality by 2050, on the graph presented difference between this scenario, climate neutrality scenario, and baseline scenario, let's say with existing measures scenario. So if, of course, one of key policy, climate policy in the decarbonization of economy of Ukraine is not only for Ukraine, it's a carbon pricing. If price of carbon will increase, because we will have more finance for different, more finance, but we can use this for different way. If we will use like now, just only transfer it to government budget and use and implement existing policy measures, GDP can be less comparing to business as usual scenario. Or if we will transfer more to household, for example, more subsidies, etc., it's also GDP will lose. But if we will use additional finance for reducing taxes for enterprises, we will pay tax. We will pay carbon tax, so and reduce taxes for this enterprise and labor. GDP will grow, not too much comparing to business line scenario, but will be higher. But if we combine and split between household transfers, tax reduction, and investment, we see the net zero scenario, or our way to climate neutrality will attract additional, will GDP on relating with this scenario will be higher comparing to business lines. So makes sense to implement this policy and scenarios, but it's very important to choose right way how to distribute money which will be attracted for climate policy and measures. Yes, and next slide, please. So, of course, without finance, we cannot achieve our targets. So in Ukraine, we also will support government of Ukraine, and government is working on improving green finance. We have some results last few years. You can see on this graphs, but very important to increase in state financial resources. And first of all, relating with carbon tax, with carbon pricing. Very important to establish of national emission trading scheme, domestic capital markets development, and modernization of national banks or regulatory policy. It's relating with SDGs or climate risk assessment and management, etc. And of course, institutional and technical assistance should be improved. Next slide, please. It's about research and development and innovation. Of course, as you know, according to the International Energy Agency report regarding to achieving net zero emission in the world by 2050, in 2050, 50% of technologies just only now on development stage and testing. So we should spend more money, more financing in research and development, not only on the national level, but on the local, on the Ukrainian level. And now we have some public funding, but it should be increase yeah, and it should be increased in different policies and for different in the different sector, but not only from the government side, but also from the private side. Next slide, please. Just transition is also important for Ukraine. So a transition to green economy or climate neutrality should take into account just transition principles. And yeah, next slide, please. And last but not least, important for us is a human capital. Take into account the situation with the war. Before the war, we had a lack of human capacity. We have had demographic crisis, but during the war, this problem increased, risk increased. So we have two priorities for developing human capital in Ukraine. It's inclusive and innovation human capital and flexibility of the labor market and opportunities to realize professional competitiveness. And last point on my presentation will be about, next slide, please, about gender equity. So Ukraine have international commitments to promote gender equity. We have a national legal framework, effective national mechanism, but we have also, we should strengthen the legal framework in the context of climate change, involve women in decision-making all levels, and to expand male effective system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And honorably welcome Mr. Kurt van der Berge, Director General of the General Directorate of the European Commission for Climate, DG Klima, for his closing remarks for our session.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and very happy to close this session after a very, very insightful and interesting presentation. I really would like to congratulate Minister Svitlova Rinchuk, the Deputy Minister, and the whole team for the excellent work you're doing on the low emission development of Ukraine. We have a very good cooperation with Ukrainian government, administration, and many stakeholders, and we are really committed to intensify this cooperation even more. Despite the war, ladies and gentlemen, the unjustified war, an intolerable war that is tomorrow nearing its 1,000th day, what we see is that Ukraine is sticking to an agenda of green transformation in order to prepare for the future. Last month, as part of the enlargement package, because Ukraine is a candidate country to join the European Union, we released the second country report on Ukraine, and we really concluded that Ukraine is making progress on the right direction in terms of green transformation, and that is remarkable. It really shows the resolve and resilience of the Ukrainian government and especially of the Ukrainian people. And then last month, on the 8th of October, the Verkhovna Rada adopted in second reading Ukraine's first framework climate law, which clarifies climate policy making in Ukraine and also puts Ukraine on track for climate neutrality by 2050. And that's another sign of Ukraine's commitment to join the European Union as a member state. So I think this path towards the EU is irreversible, and we will do from Brussels, from the European Commission, what we can to help Ukraine in that direction. It's also a very good and important signal to investors worldwide, so that investors know that Ukraine will be a country of solutions for the green transformation, not only for the benefit of Ukraine, but also for the benefit of Europe and the whole world, because Ukraine has fantastic assets to succeed and thrive in this green economy of the future. And not only do you have vast renewable energy potential in solar, hydropower, onshore wind, but also when the war will be over sooner rather than later, we hope, in the Black Sea with onshore wind. But also you can become a very significant provider of critical raw materials that the clean industry will need in Ukraine, in Europe, and in the rest of the world as well. So, as I said, Ukraine is on its way to the EU. We have started the formal enlargement process with the first stage of the so-called screening process that took place in May this year. We very much look forward to completing that screening process on climate with Ukraine in mid-2025. So in 7 months, we want to complete this and then start accession negotiations very soon after that. We are actively preparing for this, and I know that our Ukrainian friends are also doing that. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that integrating the whole EU acquis legislation in terms of climate and environment, it's not a small thing. It's not something you can do from today to tomorrow. It's a very intensive process. We will help Ukraine as much as we can. The workhorse of our climate policy in the EU is emission trading. So we also want to work with Ukraine to set up a very effective, beneficial emission trading system. We understand that the monitoring, reporting, and verification system for greenhouse gas emissions is going to be fully operational again by the end of this year, which we really welcome. This is a necessary step for effective carbon pricing. And we are looking forward to the finalization of the Ukrainian strategy and then the legislation to establish ETS in Ukraine. As I said, we already are working very well together, and we will do that even more. And lastly, let me say that this is part of a general agenda of supporting and boosting the green economy and the green reconstruction for Ukraine. You all know that we have recently agreed on the Ukraine facility, which is endowed with 50 billion euros of support to investment. The Ukraine plan which support its main component, contains a number of climate-related conditional steps, notably the adoption of the climate law, which was now done. You may also know that in that facility and plan, we have a 20% indicative target for green investments, and also a do no significant harm principle. And we really call on our Ukrainian partners and friends to take that very seriously, because that's also a very strong basis for this green investments that will make sure that we all prosper in the economy of the future. So I would like to close by thanking again for the very good presentations, for your very, very strong and visible presence here. We will do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. van der Berge. Please take a seat at the panel. I hope we do have a few minutes. For a Q&A session. And if any questions to the developing, to the Institute or to the Mr. Nazarhout or to the esteemed our guest, Mr. Kurt van der Berge, on regard to the long-term pathway of Ukraine, please raise your hands. Yep.
Does it work? A question open to anyone who would like to take it. You mentioned multiple items, including methane production facilities, promoting organic production, and all of this requires precious resources. I'm wondering, what are your discussions and conversations to advocate for low carbon development in Ukraine while we have ongoing war? And both questions are so vital for climate and for military defense. So can you comment on your advocacy work? What's your Dima?
Biomethane production. So we have a lot of first of all agrarian waste, so we can use for production biomethane, and we see that in Ukraine and in EU, combustion of solid biomass will decline. So it's because we have a lot of pollution using this process. So, but biogas and synthetic and other synthetic fuels like hydrogen is very promised in Ukraine, and we can use this not only for electricity production, but also for heat production, and some like fuels for transportation. And maybe it's answer from my side, you know.
Okay, I want to make several points. I think that legal framework, institutional framework will be very important. You know that with all enormous potentials that Ukraine has, the production of biofuels was limited for many, many years, but it is booming now. And booming for the reason is that the price distortion is now has a less impact on production of biofuels. So Ukraine for many, many years from the beginning of independence heavily subsidized natural gas for population, for households, and also to some extent to businesses. And as a result, biomethane production was not profitable. Now that the government is focusing on expansion or deployment of all bioenergy resources, I think the situation is radically changing. We would like to congratulate the adoption of the biomethane registry that was just completed recently. Ukraine has enormous potential not only to produce biomethane for its own uses, but also to export biomethane to European countries, which would improve energy security of the region. Thank you.
Exactly so. And if I may add to this, we really have as a priority to phase out of fossil fuels. And so we need to replace fossil fuels by other energy vectors. The first vector is electrification, but then there will also be a need for green molecules. And that's where biofuels also come in. And we in the European Union have